Hi, welcome to this review. We'll have a look at the short game where black got kind of crushed. And there were a few reasons for this, mainly that black was only, so to say, thinking about an attack, but not a single attacking move was made. And what we care about is the moves that were made, right? The moves win the game, not thoughts. So we'll have a look at how this all went wrongly. Hopefully we can learn something. So it started as a London system, e3, and already black made a big mistake with knight c6, and it's very important to understand in queen's pawn positions both sides really have to use their c pawns. So when we put our knight on c6, now this c7 pawn will be completely irrelevant, and also this knight is just simply badly placed, it's not doing anything. d4 is never weak if the pawn is on c7. The knight is never going there or there. Eventually, its only chance is to get maneuvered somewhere, as we will see. Typically, against the London system or whatever white plays, if white doesn't play with c4, it means black should play with c5 in general and try to take the initiative like this. Usually this pawn doesn't really hang. We can get it back, for example, like this. If c3 we can take, and even b6 in some positions, but here even black has some compensation, though probably this wasn't the most accurate way to play. Probably simplest is to play e6 and put the pawn on c5 next, knight c6, and then go from there. Black will have to solve the issue of this bishop, and then he will equalize eventually. But here white is a bit better. White continues playing the stereotypical London moves, though he should notice the knight on c6 and try to use it to his advantage. One easy way is to develop this undeveloped bishop to b5, which isn't the usual way to develop, but white has some ideas of putting pressure on the diagonal. Black is basically forced to either ruin his structure or place his bishop on a bad square. And for example, this structure is quite good for white. He can continue attacking on the queen side and developing sensibly as though it was a queen's gambit. Or he can just play c4, which would be a very good move here, since black doesn't have any c6 or anything, and this knight is just badly placed here. But white continues his plan of somehow building this London home, so to say. Okay, now here bishop d3. So black's only problem really is this knight, now that white hasn't really used it to his advantage. Now black's knight should eventually get rerouted somewhere. Okay, first black exchanges, then he plays knight h5. I'm not sure this is so important. Of course the structure changes, white gets doubled pawns, but they are never weak, and sometimes this structure is even quite good for white, as he has pressure down the e-file, he has ideas of f5, and he has more control of e5. In the comments it says black wrote that he is winning the bishop pair, but here I think we have to understand what is a bishop pair. Winning the bishop pair means that first both sides have two bishops, and then we take away one of the bishops, usually by exchanging it for a knight, like this. But here we are not winning the bishop pair, we are simply trading a knight for a bishop, and we only have one bishop, so there is no pair to speak of. But it's okay. Bishop d6, g3, and sadly this bishop is just not very good. White has placed all of his pawns on dark squares, which really restricts this bishop. Next, black plays queen e7, presumably trying to castle queenside, though he has to understand his problem, which is this knight, but it's not too easy to handle this problem. Probably black should either improve the bishop by playing h6 g5, which isn't too obvious, or play queen d7 with the idea of knight e7 to maybe place it on f5. And what the idea is that if we go here now, there is this fork, so queen d7 maybe. Okay, queen e7, both sides castle, but I think black has no chance of attacking here. Here he decided to castle queenside in a few seconds, but again, whenever we decide on a game dynamic, we have to think about how easy it is to attack and how easy it will be to defend. In other words, how possible would it be? Here black should just castle kingside, put his knight on somewhat of on a better square somewhere, maybe just b8, d7 to f6, anywhere, and then play c5, as this knight is just badly placed. But after this we can see white's attack is quite easy going. He has b4 ready. White has 4 pawns in front of his king, so it will be a while before we do anything here. Black's only plan would be h6, g5 to provoke white to take, and then if this happens, then we can try to attack this quite safe king. So a4 white plays, and black plays this move a6, which is a terrible mistake as it creates a hook for white's attack. In general, we shouldn't move pawns in front of our king unless we have a good reason to do this, and here moving pawns against the king is quite risky unless we can play a5, but this is obviously very risky. Firstly, white always has this, which gives him some initiative. He can sacrifice the pawn and open lines towards the king, but if black doesn't do this, then white will attack anyway. So here maybe black should be the one trying to do something. Here, for example, after b4, black should be happy to give up this pawn. Well, it's not even a sacrifice, because here, well, of course the best move would be to sacrifice the exchange, but even here it's fine. We're not losing any pawns. But either way, black really has to do something. The engine suggests queen f6, and I think the idea is again to improve this terrible knight. Maybe to play h6, g5, put the knight on f5, try to get some kind of counterplay going. Also, since b5 is coming, the knight will have to go somewhere anyway. But a6 gives white a hook, and now the game is very one-sided. b4, threatening b5, which would be very, very painful. Black goes knight b8, but already it's hard to suggest anything good. Black is not really doing anything on the king side at all. White is only expanding here, and sooner or later he will start creating big threats. b5, a5. So the position is a little bit closed, but we see that it's not fully closed. White has a pawn break, so we cannot say that the queen side is closed, and the black has infinite time to play on the king side. He has no time. Plus, play on the king side is not so obvious. We still haven't even started anything here. We only had thoughts of starting something. So white is almost winning here. Knight b3, b6, rook fc1, a very good move, preparing c4. Quite transparent, but black simply can't do anything about this. Threats will soon start to come. This c7 pawn is a target, c6 is a weakness, this knight is terrible, this bishop is terrible, the queen is terrible. Black has no counterplay, nothing has happened yet. Black continues to waste time with king b7. He should try to get his pieces somewhere. For example, here white will play c4, and then maybe we can play f6, for example, to maybe open the center to distract white's pieces from the attack, or play g5 to get some space, create some kind of threat, or knight f6 even, or something. But black has to do something. He cannot just mark time and just move around with his king. Now c4 happens expectedly. Black has to take, otherwise c5 is curtains. White takes back, knight d7, white gives a check, and here white can do basically anything. He can already play knight e5. Black's position is just hopeless, because white is attacking and black is not. It's as simple as that. In chess, if we're getting attacked without getting anything in exchange, for example, if we don't have material, or if white doesn't have some kind of weaknesses or long-term strategic bad factors, then it usually means that we're lost. If we're getting attacked for free, it means we're getting crushed. And here white's attack is completely free. He didn't even invest any material. And now finally knight e5 comes. Black blunders terribly with f5, but already the position is quite bad. Black should probably take with something. Now, for example, if he takes with the knight, probably taking with this pawn is a bit better. Now Black will have to move the bishop somewhere, not many good places. And now the rook can go to c1. There's basically no way to defend this. For example, after this, knight goes to d4. This is why we took with that pawn. And we can see that the weaknesses are just too much. Composition is dead. And this wasn't the only way for white to win, of course. The position is just generally winning. It's not about finding some kind of specific tactic. Though finding knight c6 is fine. Here the only chance was king a8. Here white shouldn't exchange queens. This would really limit his advantage. But he can just move the queen. And it should be obvious that black should basically resign here. Instead, king b7 happened. White had mate in 2 with this, but anything wins at this point. He can take this rook as he did, give a check, and white has material, white has the attack. There's no hope here. So there were a lot of problems here. Mainly that black optimistically thought he can, so to say, close the queen side and then start his attack. But if we look at the last position, he didn't make a single move about his attack. He was only talking about starting an attack. So what we need is moves. We need to start an attack. We don't have to plan the attack. And here black really helped white's attack by pushing pawns in front of his king. Instead he should just do something like this. And if white ignores it, black will get counterplay with h4 and try to open stuff up on the king side. This isn't entirely dangerous because now, for example, after knight e5, now if c4 is not as easily playable, well, it is playable, but it's not as dangerous, and the position is sort of locked for now, so black will have some time to get some kind of counterplay. So when we castle queenside in our own volition, so to say, we weren't forced to, we have to be ready to attack. We cannot just castle queenside and then try to defend and lose anyway. This is a sign that we don't know much about how to attack. And the first step of attacking is to attack, right?